The ongoing problems in Serbia, a country where political discontent has reached boiling point, and at the heart of the unrest is the tragic event that's become a rallying cry for change, the collapse of a railway canopy in Novi Sad. That's the second city in Serbia on November the 1st, and it claimed 15 lives. Now, if we go back to the beginning of this story, the renewed canopy at Novi Sad's railway station, it meant to symbolise progress. Instead, it became a horrifying emblem of the failure of the system. 14 people from the age of 6 to 75 were killed instantly, and a 15th succumbed to injuries weeks later. And this tragedy has been widely attributed to shoddy construction, alleged corruption, nepotism within the government and its contractors, particularly those tied to Chinese state firms that were participating in the development. And the government's response has been lacklustre at best. 13 arrests have been made, including a government minister, but the minister's subsequent release has only deepened public scepticism about the investigation's integrity. And in the weeks following the disaster, protests have grown exponentially. Tens of thousands of Serbians have filled Belgrade's Slavica Square in one of the largest rallies in recent years, and smaller demonstrations have been held in Novi Sad, in Niš, in Kragujevac. The protesters, observing 15 minutes of silence to honour the victims, then broke into chants of "You have blood on your hands, Vučić, thief," targeting President Aleksandar Vučić and his ruling Serbian Progressive Party. And these protests are not only solely about the canopy collapse, they reflect years of frustration with perceived corruption, authoritarianism, mismanagement under Vučic's administration, and students and farmers have been at the forefront demanding accountability and transparency. High school students have even joined the movement, holding 15-minute blockades in honour of the victims and pressing for the resignation of the education minister. And adding to their voices, Serbia's prominent actors and cultural figures have described the protests as a festival of freedom. Even the Orthodox theology faculty at the University of Belgrade, an unexpected participant, temporarily joined the road blockades. The government's attempts to placate the unrest have ranged from promises of transparency to early school closures. In fact, schools have closed today early for the Christmas season, ostensibly for safety. However, these measures have only fueled the perception that the administration is more interested in damage control than in reform, and Vučić himself has dismissed the protests as political ploys orchestrated by the opposition and foreign powers, accusing them of using children for their agenda. Yet this rhetoric seems increasingly out of touch with the public mood. A striking feature of these protests is their symbolic unity. The time of 1152, when the canopy collapsed, has become a rallying point, and a red handprint has emerged as the movement's unofficial emblem, symbolising corruption and complicity. And this imagery, not unlike the imagery used that triggered the First World War, has galvanised a nation that feels betrayed by those in power. As protests grow, therefore, so do the demands for a transitional government and fair elections, and the opposition sees this as a way out of Serbia's political impasse, but Vučić remains defiant. While he touts infrastructure projects like a newly inaugurated highway to showcase progress, the people's focus remains on justice, not ribbon-cutting ceremonies. The Novi Sad canopy collapse has exposed the cracks in Serbia's government, both literal and metaphorical, and this movement has transformed grief into a powerful demand for change. Whether it results in a reform of the system or deeper entrenchment by the authoritarian regime remains to be seen. These protests are a testament to the power of collective action. They remind us that beneath each failed canopy is a foundation that needs rebuilding brick by brick and with integrity.